Okay, let's go ahead and start adjusting some of these, this vest here, some of these features to kind of more accurately reflect what it is we're looking for. So the first thing I would suggest doing is, you see this kind of gap here. So usually Marvelous Designer doesn't actually like kind of having an edge stitched to a internal line, but what we can do is an easy fix here. We can come in here with the internal line, and we can actually right click and tell it to cut and sew. Okay, so basically it's just going to treat it like a new piece of fabric. Once Marvelous Designer does some thinking, there you go. And we'll just check the sew in there, and you can see it's sewn nicely for us, but it has deleted this sewing over here. So we do have to go ahead and re-stitch that to there. Okay, and in so doing, once we hit the space bar, this kind of simulation, you'll see it just closes up. How it should do, really. Okay, now don't ask me why it doesn't work with the internal seam line, it's just one of those things. Okay. Right, fantastic. So, another thing we have to address here a little bit is the overall shape. Now, can you imagine if we didn't kind of shrink down her breasts, how kind of, this is what I mean by it being in your face. It's very much in your face, even though anatomically speaking, it's probably quite fine, but the garment here very much is kind of in our faces here. So I'm going to make a few refinements, not to the base mesh, although you can absolutely go back in the ZBrush and make those changes if you like, but I just want to tweak how these sit here in particular. Okay, so I do want to kind of straighten out this edge a little bit more, move it inwards, right, and then straighten that out a bit more, because I don't want such a wide view there. I want it kind of cut in quite a bit, so I need to bring and reduce that in a little bit, but I also need to be mindful of just how far reaching that is there. Okay, can you see I'm trying to create more space there? Okay, so I need to reflect that on the other side too by bringing that in a little bit, pushing it out, and again grabbing that handle, refining this to be about 53 long, 53-ish, excellent, and then kind of straightening that out a bit more, so you can see we've got the same thing there, hit spacebar, and that should reflect our new changes. Fabulous. Okay, right, that's only a small kind of change, right? It's not a huge change, so we do have to do a couple of more things. I think one of the things I will do is I'll probably bring this point a bit further down there, and I am going to bring this up a little bit, but it's kind of curve it in a bit more like that, so it's got that more natural angle there. Okay, the other thing I want to do as well is to obviously reduce this size of this quite drastically. So I want to kind of pull this down quite a bit. And it's got a bit of curvature on the ends here. So to introduce that, go ahead and grab your curve tool. And I'm just going to curve in those parts there. Okay. Now of course you can heighten this effect by pulling out these points even more. Okay, but obviously it's going to, your mileage will vary depending upon what you've got set up. And you can see here that it's refusing the fold yet again. So you do have to encourage Marvelous Designer every now and then to just be, hey, we had a standing agreement, Marvelous Designer. Don't be changing it up now. Okay. Now how do we get this collar to be stiff and not so floppy as it is here? Well, I found a few things. A couple of things I did when I was kind of just exploring a little bit in between videos was I was going to look at solidifying it, but actually the best way to do it is just play with the pressure down here. Okay, so if we kind of slide that up and down, you can see what's happening there. Okay, if we slide the pressure negative, you can see that it's trying to stand on end, but it does have something above it. Okay, so it's only going to work so well. If we click on that, however, and we go to, if we right click that, and we click solidify, we can do that too, and it does kind of strengthen it a little bit, okay? But probably the best way to do it is to actually get a new material. So if we add another material here, and we just say this as the collar material, okay? And then we could change this preset here to something super stiff like raw denim, let's say. And you could do the thickness as being maybe 2. We'll just go quite crazy. Okay, 2mm thickness. Remember, do take simulation off before you do that, otherwise you could end up with a constant kind of simulation loop, and whop that stiffness all the way up. Okay, make it super stiff. Okay, And then now if we apply that material to the collar there, it should help reflect a few things. Again, it's not much, okay, but it can help to just keep it a bit more rigid. Also, another thing as well, if you want, you can freeze it, although obviously that's going to have strange effects as well. Okay. Now, another thing I'll point out here is you might be tempted to flip the normals on these, but look what happens if you flip it. It is a weird thing. It suddenly starts to inflate. Like that, look. Weird, isn't it? Very, very strange. Okay, so you might be tempted to flip the normal, however, I would advise against that in this particular instance. So unfortunately, when we get into ZBrush, that's a complication we will have to work around. Okay, right, but for the most part there, the vest is somewhat coming together, and I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. I'm much more comfortable in ZBrush tweaking all this stuff, so I'm just going to get the basic kind of folds done here, and then I'm going to kind of go over to ZBrush. Now, the only other thing I want to try and do is what happens if we move these triangular or these kind of diamond-like pieces further down. Okay, maybe they're a little bit too far up at the moment. I want to move them just below the breast line, and see if that helps alleviate any of the tightness there that I'm experiencing in my model. Okay, let's go ahead and hit spacebar. And yeah, it doesn't change much, but I think I prefer that overall. Okay, I think if we go to the heat map now, it's still pretty tight around the chest there, but we do want it to be tight. We don't want this garment to be particularly loose. Okay, so it is kind of, I wouldn't say it's ideal, but that's what we're going for essentially. Now, just one last thing I want to check is that is 53 long, that is 76 long, so that's quite a big difference. So we're going to have to do the same thing we did on the front, but on the back. We're going to move that in a little bit, and this is still got applied linked editing to it, so that's nice. And we can bring it down to 54. We don't have to be on the spot exactly correct. And then you can straighten that out a bit. Hit spacebar. And you can see we've got this kind of overlap now. We've got that looking a little bit longer than it is, so we can afford to bring that back a little bit. And now that might be too much now. This is the funny thing. You just got to keep kind of playing with it until it looks right. And this is the time-consuming part. But it does give you good results. That's why. That's a good thing. I mean, previously we'd been doing all this base mesh modeling in Maya, and well, that's nowhere near as fun, truth be told. Okay, so this one here, this is kind of behaving a little bit annoyingly, so we kind of put the pressure on it to stay flat over like that. Fantastic. And let's exaggerate that a little bit because we haven't really looked at this so much. So let's go ahead and be like, yo, make it really big. Make it just a fun size. See what happens if you make it kind of almost, yeah, make it somewhat that big. Now, it is a little bit off spec to what we're trying to go for here, but again, you know, it's the creative power is ours here, so whatever kind of takes our fancy, we should definitely do. And I'm going to add a bit of curvature here as well. Something like that, just to stop it from looking like a crepe. To make it a bit more kind of curved in, a bit like, oh, it's premium type thing, you know. And again, Marvelous Designer doing that weird thing where it just seems to, oh, okay, yeah, look, that's looking alright, that's not too bad. Yeah, that's a bit better. Again, a bit more kind of angular there, looks better. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I know it's pretty tight down there, but I'm wondering if we can kind of, you see what we've got here, it looks pretty straight, doesn't it? And whilst that is okay, I wonder what happens if we were to move some of these points in here. You see that these are pretty straight down here, what we've got at the moment. What happens if I move them in a bit? I'm probably going to basically stop the poor girl from breathing, but let's give it a shot. I'm curious to see what would happen if we did that. So it's pretty tight round there. If we hit spacebar, yeah, okay, so we've got a much tighter fit there now. Okay, in fact, it's so tight, I believe it's probably bright. Yes, it's bright red. There we go. Okay, fair enough. Right. So this collar being pulled down so far here does give me pause to think, just, have I got enough material on there? So perhaps I might just want to move this up a little bit. Maybe it might help if I push that up a little bit and see what that kind of gives me. Yeah, so you can see that's kind of relaxed that part now, so strangely I can seemingly move this back now. And you see, this is the thing, if if you haven't been using Marvelous Designer for a long while and you're maybe unsure about, garment creation, which, full transparency, Marvelous Designer is a recent addition to my wheelhouse of techniques. You can still find a bunch of things that surprise you. Okay, but truth be told, like I mentioned before, I'm much happier sort of calling it a day very soon in Marvelous Designer and moving over to ZBrush, where I've got full control. I know what I'm doing in ZBrush. I'm happier to be in ZBrush. The only thing I will do here is I want this side not being so much over there. I want it kind of sweeping across here a little bit. So I don't want it straight in the middle. I want to kind of sweep it across. And of course, we know what we're going to do there. We're going to bring that all the way across, and we have to bring this along as well. Okay, so there you go. You're kind of getting that effect there. And kind of pull that down again as well. Get a bit more effect. Move that a little bit out the way and see what that gives us. Yeah, okay, there we go. We get that kind of effect there where that's a little bit more over. And how is the sewing there stitched together? So if that's moving across, that should be, this point here should also move across in response. So it kind of stitches back over there on that side a bit more. So I should pull it across even more. Yes, there we go. Okay, so already, just by changing that, it gives us a much more unique look to it rather than being split straight down the middle, which is kind of boring, isn't it? Okay, so this part here, we want it to be kind of floppy yet rigid at the same time. And this is the annoying thing, is that Marvelous Designer, as far as I know, it doesn't do a very good job of rigidity. It does a great job of being floppy and everything, because that's what it's for. But rigidness is not in its wheelhouse, so we could play with the pressure a little bit to get it to really depress like that. Okay, so we want it to really kind of fold over. And we can just, for the time being, whilst we're here, check on that fold intensity. You see the fold strength is, we could put that to be pretty high up. And then we could play with the intensity, 3D seam line. What does that do? I'm not even sure. No, not much, unfortunately. Okay, that's fine. Okay, what I think I'll do here is I'll just kind of pull the collar up a little bit. Just a little bit. You can see it's pretty stuck. So if we unsolidify it, can we move it a bit more now? And it's pretty elastic. Okay, so let's see. I'm just trying to get it to stand a bit more upright. Pause simulation, start simulation. No, there's unfortunately no way of doing it. You can freeze it, of course, but like I said, it doesn't really give us much joy either way. Okay, it's just that this collar here is just a little bit flippy floppy. I'd like it to be nice and smooth around the back there, but it's not playing ball, unfortunately, which is a tad annoying, but we'll just have to do what we can. Just a lot of playing about, trying to get that collar down, remind it where it's supposed to be. Go on, you. Why is there a little dig in the back there? Come on, up you come. That's it. That's it. Yes, yes, there. See, it just likes to fall down. Very, very strange. Again, if we apply pressure, it doesn't do much. It's already quite pushed down. There. Right. Okay. I have to stop the simulation, and I am going to just, for better or worse, I'm just going to go ahead and select this and just freeze it. There we go. And then now I've got full control over the collar itself. So you, that's it. That's it. Okay, so, okay, it does have its uses sometimes. But this point here, where's the point of that now? Come on, where are you at? There you are. See, this is the bizarre thing. It's got a tip there, but where's the tip here? It's kind of falling in on itself. There it is. What did I do? I just shook it about. Oh dear, never mind, never mind. Okay, so a couple of other things. I want to... Yeah, we're going to have to kind of manually tweak the collar in ZBrush later on, but I do want this to kind of stretch over here a little bit more, so I'm going to have to create a split here, I think. And I'm going to do a uniform split and do either side that way. And that will be okay, I think. Essentially, I want to bring the center in quite a bit. I just want to... Just bear with me here. It's easier to show rather than to explain in this instance. So that's about the right length, but I do want the middle to depress quite a bit. Oh, that's not helpful. I didn't want that per se. Handles. Okay, so it looks like I'll have to undo that. And I may have to split this in the middle. And then bring that point down. And I've got very extreme there, but if I turn that a bit more, so it's a bit more gradual, like so, it should hopefully give me the effect I'm sort of looking for. But then again, we don't want to skimp too much on the back of the collar as well, so we want to have some volume there. There we go. Okay, yeah. So this looks pretty big, like stupidly big almost, but you have to kind of think of it from the angle that if that was at full height, then it would, you know, kind of sit a little bit better. Okay, right, how are our folds doing? We haven't really talked about folds a lot. We've been trying to get the shape and everything to our liking, but we've not talked a single bit about the folds. So what we need to do now is maybe save for the collar, because we don't need to worry about that part there. We want to basically go ahead and apply particle distance 10 and see what our results are. We haven't played with shrinkage, weft and warp yet, so there we go. So as you can see, just a small crease at the back there. Again, it's out of the material that we're making here. We're not going to have lots of creases and folds. We're just going to have some. So don't be too kind of like, oh, I don't have a lot of folds. This is probably the one part of the garment that doesn't actually need that many folds. Okay, so just playing with a few numbers here. Yeah, that's quite good. And maybe once if you bring that down, I prefer it when it's a bit. There we go. Bit more ill-fitting perhaps, I guess. Bit bigger overall. Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. That's not folded over completely, just got to pull that out there. Yeah, there we go. So there's quite a bit of slack there. So we could try and pull that down to alleviate that. Okay. Yeah, so there's our main folds there. They'll be around the back and they'll be around the sides as well. If the sides weren't so tight, we could get those folds back as well. Okay. Right, so what happens if we... Let's just have a curiosity. Let's unfreeze them. What happens? Not much. Okay, we could play with the pressure again a little bit more to see if that does anything. But you can see at this point in time, it's not really having it, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we could do. Nope, not to my knowledge. I think that's where we'll have to leave it there. Okay. So it would be nice if they stuck up like that, but we're not going to realistically get that with fabric. We could also, with the collar material, we could have a look at a few things here, perhaps. Play with some settings. Let's see. None of these settings really look good to me. Let's try a preset. Oh! Fusible rigid. Well, it does change a few things. Doesn't do much, but it's better. I prefer it. Yeah, that's okay. And we could solidify or strengthen. Strengthen. Oh, that's held its shape now. Look. Okay. Can we strengthen it more? We can unstrengthen, but we can solidify it. Okay, that would be the best we have to do, I think, for now. At least the collar is now nice and shaped and everything like that. That's fine. I'm happy to take that into ZBrush now. We can just do with that now. So the other thing I want to do here is just check what's going on a little bit with this. This is 229, so it is okay. Maybe I just shorten it just slightly, make it a bit tighter rather than being so loose like that. And see if that can help with... Yeah, that's a bit better. Okay. Alright, fabulous. Okay, well, I think I'll leave it there, guys. That's the vest for now. Any kind of shape and tweaking and stuff like that, I'm just going to go do it in ZBrush now, because there's a lot more to this than we've done here. Okay. So let's go ahead and we'll leave the rest there for now.